Yeah, I think we're going live, going live, going live. Yeah, apparently we're live, I think. Yeah. So yeah, hey, welcome to another episode of the Operation Grow Show, season 5, episode 30. So I hope everybody is doing well out there and having a good Saturday afternoon, evening, maybe Sunday morning, depending on where you are. Uh, but yeah, on that note, so far on the panel, we've got, hey, Cascadian, welcome to the show once again. We've also got Shrooby Doo hanging out there somewhere, though he's being a bit silent right now. Probably got screaming kids, I don't know. We also have GMF with us this evening or this afternoon. So, hey, how's everyone doing? Cascadian, how you doing, buddy?
Doing good, man. Just been busy, but glad to be here. Had to scratch a little
Excellent.
time out of my Saturday to see you guys again. So here I am.
Always, always good to see you and always good to be busy. Yeah, makes it better to be busy than not. Let's put it that way. Boredom's a bitch. Um, hey, there he is. Wow.
Cheers, guys.
Looking pretty, wow, pretty swish there. Upping the ante a touch, hey? Holy crap. Hey, should we? How things going, bud?
It's been busy, man. It's a new job, pregnant wife. It's been crazy. I'm not sure you can hear the daughter screaming in the background.
Nope.
Oh, you're lucky. You're lucky. She's hitting that special octave that just below ear bleeding.
Nice, nice, nice.
Bless
How-
her heart.
yeah, yeah, we. And we've also got GMF hitting away there. How you doing, buddy?
Oh, I can't complain, man. Just grateful to get to hang out with y'all, getting some chores done around the house today, getting some projects worked on. Finally got those bottles in to get those kombuchas bottled up, so that'll get started today and tomorrow. Got a new what you call it, hygrometer, so I can take some gravity readings off it. Just little stuff, but getting caught up on my projects. That's about it, though. Always make how shall I say? This always makes for good break time at this point of the day, though. Little coffee,
Nice.
we'll hang out with you guys.
Good stuff,
Make my
good
brain
stuff.
bumpier.
And whoop, hello to everybody there in chat as well. Got all the usuals, Tasmanian Devil, Kush Cloud, Phil Mitchell,
Cheers, everybody.
Dirty Indica, Steelbird. Well, if the list goes on, if I missed your name, I do apologize. But yeah, hope everybody in chat's doing well too. So yeah, I thought what might be interesting, it might be controversial, but given so far looking into the amount of effort it really takes into producing a stable line or a good end product, one that you would want to buy, so when it's consistent, etc. We've seen through talks, etc., just how much complication there is in doing this and what that process is. It's not something you just do overnight. What, as consumers, what do we consider to therefore be a fair price to pay for that effort? And how do you therefore go about it? Do you, if you get where I'm going, it's a case of the guy that puts in, expensive watches are expensive because they are. People just charge for that, regardless. But if you kind of feel like it's somebody's put in 13 years of effort, that certainly justifies. Okay, it's more a case of how much effort, what's the dollar price to effort put in that we're happy to go with as a consumer? Are we happy to pay? I put 15 years of effort in, or a good sum, or the guy got lucky. Other side of it.
Well, go ahead, Cascading. Go for it, bud.
I just have a couple different instances of breeders who should probably remain nameless, but one guy I'm a big fan of started breeding his work in the mid 90s, and a lot of his work these days consists of a cross of his to a cross of his, and those crosses are each crosses of his. So when he's asking for $300 a pack, he's completely in his own realm as far as his genetics are concerned, and it's a justifiable price. But then you see other people taking some barely worked line for a pollen donor and smacking the next hype cut and charging $400 to $600 a pack. Like, I don't see that. The hype's not hypey enough for me to pay that much. That's more $100.
Yeah.
So
So it's,
there's both sides of the game there. And when you talk about, like, I mean, those are like two of the what I would call like high end options. But when you talk like the vast majority, it's I mean, 70, 60, $70 to $200 maybe for the vast majority of stuff out there seems about right for me. Just kind of depends on the who and the what, you know.
No, precisely. And then, you know, at that point, sorry, actually, Jim, hey, Raptor, nice to have you here, buddy. I don't know if it's blackout zone and his next to the woods, but I hope you're doing well. 85 for a pack of 10. So, yeah, and then that's the next question. You know, like, what's a fair quantity to get for that price? You know, pack of 10 regulars. What are you expecting? And I think where we're getting to that space of, you're saying the $78 for 10, etc. That, yeah, to me, that's reasonable. It's certainly not large scale commercial pricing, but it's definitely more reasonable. And they've probably put quite a bit of time into it as well.
Well, I think this is where I'm going to say, if we really want to discuss it, let's change out the commodity, right? So let's talk about any other commodity and see if any of this holds true. Okay.
Yep.
I think in most cases, right? So I always take it back to food just because that's the world I come from. That's what I know, and we all eat. So it's kind of easy to get on board with that. So when it comes down to that, there's two things that determine valuation. One, what does it take you to produce it? i.e., what's the minimum you got to hit just to survive? And then your price is going to end up somewhere between there and what you think the market will bear. Because if it goes the other direction, your business folds. So your actual price, the real world price, is going to always lie somewhere between your cost of production, including labor, et cetera, and what the market will bear. And I think that's essentially what we're looking at in these same products. So for example, when you buy a 99-cent cheeseburger from McDonald's, that's artificially cheap, right? That price is artificially low for a number of different economic reasons, but it's really there to sell you a Coke for $1, which has got a much better profit margin. So sometimes, especially food commodities, we cheat, we kind of trick people like that. We use loss leaders, things like that to get people in the door because we know you're going to round out the purchase, right? So, I mean, I suppose that only applies then when you're buying multi-packs and things like that. But, really we're back to the idea of what is it worth to the consumer and what did it cost me to produce it? So, and on the production end, that's up to you. How many years it took you, how many tries it took you, et cetera.
Well, that's just it. I mean, that's that. It's again, are you prepared to a chef who's spent decades perfecting the art of being able to produce the ultimate burger, and the guy that produces a burger that looks the same, kind of gets it, but it's not. Yes, your one-off hit can do it once, but I mean, I guess that's really the difference. Is the other guy can do it over and over and over again.
Well,
and the other guy
you're going to win by volume
once.
then. The idea then is a burger is only worth what a burger is worth, but the good guy is going to sell more burgers.
The other angle to all of this is, are you buying something that they're going to keep making more of for years? Is this their finished final product that they're selling you, or is it a step along the way? You get into supply and demand at that point. You get into are they ever going to make this this particular piece of work ever again? Or is it something
Yeah.
that they pump out quarterly?
And I guess that's it's interesting because that's sort of like that introduces, it's one of those areas where you've got this regular retail commercial market that also has like a collector's element to it, where people are buying to collect because of the hype, and it is a one-off wonder. It'll never be reproducible, but it just happens to tick all the boxes. And that artificially inflates the price because they're also buying it to hold on to them. It's almost like watching a commodities market. They're buying the stuff to hold on to because in a couple of years' time, it'll be worth 10 times more because no one has it anymore.
So we're talking about sneakers now? Is that really it's not like food where it's a commodity that's consumable and you can always
Kind of.
make more. Is it more like sneakers where,
Kind
hey,
of,
this is a
yeah.
limited run?
Kind
at
yeah,
the same
kind of.
But at the
You-
same time, it's taken somebody's blood, sweat, and tears. I'm like, okay. Sweatshops, maybe taking care of the sweat part, the tears part. I don't know, but probably the blood part too, to be honest. The manufacturer of it. But there you also have the thing that you're working with an organic element that you can't turn and burn the development of it. It takes time. It needs to be nurtured and cultured and brought along. And you have to pick. It's like making 10,000 pairs of trainers and then having to pick two, but you don't know if you've got all the designs right until you've made a huge number of them.
That's just
Makes
it. No
sneakers
matter
a hell of a
what,
lot more expensive.
it's going to be 3 months, like at least, until you get something. And that's not even like a finished product. That's just one step of it all. And who knows, you might even get a variety that takes 5 months. So even more work is going into it with even like more limitations put upon that. So that's the whole thing. It's like, are we paying for the spices? Are we paying for the cook, like how professional they are? Or are we paying for how fast they put it out? Are we paying for the quality of the meat, quality of the bun? There's so much that goes into it, and especially since it's an organic thing, like you're saying, there's even more limitations put upon it.
I mean, I want to value it based on time and effort they put in. That's how I want to value it. I want to say, well, that to me is what I'm
So
paying
you're
for.
paying
I'm
for the
for your
cook's
time.
professionalism and how long that cook took to get
well,
that
the breeder's
to that
time.
point.
If we keep, yeah,
Oh.
I mean, yeah, exactly. It's just that I'm paying for. It took you 13 years to do this. I respect that. I'll pay a fair price for that. But not if you took, again, it goes back to that thing of if you take somebody else's hard work, slam it together, and then want to charge, but you haven't put any effort into this. None whatsoever. Yeah, you can charge that if you give at least 50% of it to the guy's work you used, then fair enough. But you're not doing that.
I can pretty much blanket statement that anything north of 300's not coming in my garden. I'm not going to pay that much. That's pretty much the upper range for me. And
you mean 300 for a 10 pack, i.e.,
Yeah.
just to talk about it in real terms, $30 a seed.
Yeah.
So $30 a seed. Whereas to be honest, I think I would be hard pressed to go above 10 or 11. Like that's really pushing it. You know what I mean? For a work product, $10 or $11, maybe 12 per seed, maybe for something that's very rare or worked or someone's got a lot of time into, but honestly, I think half that, is $50, maybe $5 a seed for 10, $5 a seed for things that are unworked, things that are just, hey, this is just what I happen to be working with along the way, basically gambles. That to me seems a lot more, how shall I say, swallowable by the majority of the market. Again, it's between the cost of production and what the market's willing to bear. It seems like that's very bearable for some people. But once you start talking over $10, $15 a seed, that's not really, I don't think that's really doable for most people.
And then when anybody's accidentally pollinated their room and realized just how many seeds that you produce, you go like,
right?
Hang on a second. Once you've got it right, it's like it's not that difficult to make lots of these.
Well,
Right?
I don't know if anyone's brought it up, but let's be real about what kind of agricultural product we're talking about. It's been illegal for the most part, and the value you get off of growing the fruits or flowers of it, how much does everyone getting an ounce? That more than covers the seed. So that's been a lot of like the whole, well, yeah, I'm paying this premium, but I am also charging a premium for what I'm getting for most people. So a lot of
So
people
we're
are
back
okay
to an
with that.
we're back to an artificially influenced price due to illegality, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, and then-
Is what it is, though.
Hmm.
I mean, it might be artificially inflated, but that's the nature of the beast right now. It might
But it
not
should be
the same in
deflating
10
then.
years.
It should,
But-
yeah, it should be deflating right now then, because it's now the FDA has declared we can send them all over the country, no problem. So
but
they
it's
should be
still
getting
tied
cheaper.
to that illegality. All those players,
Yeah.
all those illegal players that, you know, I don't see it as
So
illegal.
are you
They're
paying
doing
for
what they're doing
marketing?
still.
Are you getting into you're paying for the brand, you're paying for the marketing?
Paying for the fifth ingredient.
So again, it's like, how do you, what is that quantifiable thing that makes it, this is what it's worth? This is where its value is. Hmm.
I like the whole other thing that got brought up as well, rarity. So not just like, oh, I'm just gonna do one run of this, but hey, there's people like we'll use Mac, for example. Lots of people are trying to work with it, but it's notorious to breeders for not yielding seeds. So whatever seeds you get is what you get. That part I understand it getting a little more pricier because it took them just the same amount of money and effort that it would have taken them for 1,000 for another one, but they're putting that same effort into this. All that money for lighting, all that money to keep the fans going, all that the nutrients, it's the same. And it's even, I heard it's even hungrier and you're getting even less from the nutrient package. So yeah, it gets a little squirrely once you look at what the breeders themselves have to go through.
Well,
And
then let's look
especially if
at
they're
it.
putting 3 years into it minimum.
Yeah,
Exactly.
let's do some back of the envelope calculations, okay? In say a given square foot, okay, so say a 3x3, you could produce, let's say, and tell me if anyone feels wrong about this, maybe Schwoob can weigh in here. How about 500 seeds out of a square foot? If it's well pollinated, could we get 500 healthy seeds out of a single square foot of garden space? Well,
But
if you
it's,
think about
yeah, because it's not actually a square foot. You've also got,
Yeah, cubic foot. You're talking
Vertical
you've got
Well,
vertical
okay.
space here.
So
So
out
if
of every
you,
cubic foot, let's say of floor space or whatever, how many
Volume,
seeds are
yeah.
we going to produce? Yeah, 500, whatever. Let's pick a number, and then we'll run some back of the envelope calculations from there. 500
I'd say
sounds
100 is
reasonable to me.
safe. Yeah.
100, okay.
No, I'm saying like
Only
minimum
100.
within a volume. Yeah.
Jeez, no, I mean, if you go 250 and you go, how many cubic feet of canopy of bud do you get per grow?
Yeah.
That working speed, but anyway, uh,
Well, if it was 250 a square foot, that'd be 4,000 out of a 4x4.
That's pretty good haul, considering that, it literally takes you
cubic
one
foot.
flower run to produce it, plus all the work you put in ahead.
That's 400 packs.
Well, if you actually said, okay, if you do that as a cubic foot, if you said per square foot, and then you say there's, what was it, when we just go up and just add for a few layers above it, multiply by 5 to give you the cubic feet that you would want. So you could wind up with like nearly 500,000 seeds very quickly.
It wouldn't take long. That's for sure. Like,
Yeah. I reckon
So I
10,
noticed when-
if you do it in terms of like 10 plants well pollinated, you'd probably be there very quickly.
So the expense comes in, and every time you do that, you're pulling a lottery ticket, and you've got to hope you get your combination correct, right? So that's where the skill comes in. is in how many times are you flipping that to get to your end result? Because we can see the end result of actual harvestable product that you can turn into saleable, assets fairly hefty.
Let's say you produce 250,000, 250,000 seeds, viable seeds out of your 500,000, 250,000 are viable. So that's a 50. I mean, that's a horrendous return.
No, but it's back of the envelope. That's perfect.
Then that's 25,000 packs at packs of 10. And you're charging $100 a pack, yeah?
See, that's where
$2.5 million if you're doing them in 10 packs. That's
and that's
retail.
assuming, and that's
But that's
overall
retail
revenue at
price.
retail. Yeah,
Yeah.
everyone's going to get a cut along the way. But that's a pretty damn big pie to be giving cuts out of.
I've never.
But you
seen
do
that
have to
many
sell
seeds come out of it.
25,000 packs. Sorry?
I've never seen that many seeds come out of a 4x4.
I know with my 5x5, the 5x5 I just ran for the breeding project, all in all, I maybe got out of the 5 strains I ran, it was like 450 seeds. And it was just really the top 18 inches of the plant. They're really heavily pollinated, just light
Hmm.
penetration. So
And if you were doing it outdoors,
that's not my wheelhouse.
but if you were pollinating in a greenhouse, for
Oh, yeah.
instance, I
I
mean,
don't-
then you'd be churning up the numbers because you'd have the plant size to deal with it.
Right.
Even if we back it down by a factor
would
of
be
10,
Would you say
right,
that
that's
the
still a lot.
greenhouse would also be your cheapest option because you've got the lowest running costs for a greenhouse?
Lowest cost of input, absolutely.
But yeah, even if we brought that down by a factor of 10, that's still $250,000.
Right?
There are a lot of breeders and a lot of packs out there that are 65, 70, 75.
yeah.
There's a baker's dozen of them. Are
Mm.
12 out of 13 packs out there are pretty decently
And-
priced.
Yeah, and the thing is, they don't have all the fancy packaging and everything else that comes with it. So again, it's like the Nike brand without the tick on the side. It's just another pair of trainers, and people, if you took the tick off that and charged half the price, people wouldn't be interested in buying it, even though it's exactly the same thing. But charge double the amount and put the logo on it, everybody wants it.
And beer's the same way. It's all made from hops, yeast, water, malt, but depending on how you market it, it's how much you can charge for it.
Is it worth the shiny packet?
A lot of at least just from what I've seen, admittedly I've kind of stopped paying attention to seed prices and releases because I told myself I can't buy anymore.
Yes, you can.
But if you pay attention, the higher priced ones are generally maybe not necessarily a one-off, but they're usually a step in somebody's breeding program, which means there's not going to be a lot of packs, and they've already put a lot of work in. Usually, there's those oddballs I mentioned that have an unjustified high price, but if you're like cutting your way into somebody's breeding project, you basically have to buy your way in. And there's only so many packs, and they're usually not listed on seed sites. You usually have to go to a convention or know somebody to even get the offer in the first place.
Well, you guys think I'm crazy, but I'm going to bring up someone I always do, the Rev, man. I love the way his site's laid out because his first set of strains is called the Gambler's Table. Those you're going to pay anywhere from 25 to 50 bucks for a 10 pack. You go to his work strains that are F4s and stuff like that. Yeah, that you could pay up to 100 bucks for something like that. But all his stuff at the quote unquote Gambler's Table, that's stuff that may never even make release in the other lines, but you can always stop by the Gambler's Table and grab something for a really good price. So I kind of think it should be the other way. If you're dipping in along the way to someone's final project, you should get it half off. you should get half price. And I really like the way he does it. Kingdom Organic Seeds, I'll shout him out all day. I like his products. I use them. You know, I'll recommend him all day, and I like the way he does business.
I guess the other
Yeah,
side
it's,
to the coin too is it's different. This is the part that's different for everybody. But how much? What does $100 mean to you? What could you do with $100 in somewhere else in the rest of your life? And that's based on cost of living of where you're at and your income and all that. That's different for everybody. So it really gets tricky. Everybody's got to kind of justify it themselves, and it's up to the breeder to figure out the sweet spot. But every time I've paid $300 for a pack of seeds, I've been disappointed. I've never been disappointed in $300 on a pack. Now, there's not a whole lot of packs I've paid $300 for. There's probably 3, but I wasn't disappointed.
And is it a case of when it gets to that point that when you put it up against like a $300 plant, up against a $100 plant, up against a $50 pack of plants. So let's actually say $30 seed, $10 seed, $5 seed, $1 seed. Is the difference that you get, do you notice that in the end product? I mean, what else are you expecting to get then? Are you expecting, if I pay that, every single one of these better come out bloody what it says, like looking like the picture? Or are you going to tell me at 300, I'm still doing a pheno hunt of, you know, find the fire? No. At 300, that problem already better be resolved, you know.
Better have 10 fire fucking plants right there ready to go. Whether it's male or female, I can use those. So whatever I need to.
That's what I had.
Genotype. Yeah, one genotype, and your phenotypes based on how you grow it. Not
there was a slight variation in the finished flower, but they all grew the same. They all enjoyed the same light, the same soil, the same watering conditions. They had the same structure. And it was flavors I'd never seen before. I hadn't seen them in a dispensary. I never got them from my weed guy. They'd never grown in my tent before. I'd never seen those flavors before. And it was up to me to grow all the females. I think I had 6 females out of a 10-pack, and finesse out which one was actually the one worth keeping around for a while. Because they all had slight variations in density, but also flavor and aroma in the finished flowers. They weren't all copycats, but it was hard. When it's hard for me to pick the best one, it's worth that price tag. But if it's a clear winner by a long mile, then you got ripped off.
Yeah, I mean, like, where's the chance that the bottom end of the price rung, you know, on the seeds turns out to be the better one? You know, it's like the wine that's priced when it comes down to crunch time and the sommelier doesn't know how much. I mean, as an example, I mean, I'm being very facetious here, but you know, tell me which one of these is the $1,000 bottle of wine when you're blindfolded and you don't know where it can. You know, you just pure blind testing. You know, the average person probably can't do it. It may take a very extremely trained person to get right. That's the one, simply because you can detect something that none of these other fuckers can. But you're 1 in 1,000.
It's funny you say that. I was watching John Cleese's Wine for the Confused, and he brought a bunch of people over his, obviously pre-COVID times. He brought a bunch of people over his house for a garden party. He put wine in sport bottles. So it just had the squeezy top. So you couldn't see anything inside it. You didn't know what you're drinking. And it turns out most people could not even distinguish a red from a white.
Wow.
That's,
People
I
got
mean,
that
I don't
wrong
know
all the
about the
time.
red and white, but that's where I fall into with, like, if you were giving me like 10 of those bottles of all reds or whatever, and you tell me pick out which one is the most expensive, like the most valued. I don't know. No clue. I'm not in that world. I first off can't afford it. And even if I could, it would take me a while, maybe a year or 2 to even get to like understanding all those flavors that are present within there. That, yeah, it's just like same thing with cannabis. I didn't know it all tasted like weed, man. You know, when I first did it, especially when you burn it. When you burn it, it's that for me is a whole different realization. When I started vaporizing, I was like, whoa, I'm getting way more flavor off of this consistently. I'm tasting different things. And at the same time, if I only did that in my breeding and didn't include burning, I would be missing out on the flavors that are being expressed while it's burning too. So it's definitely that learning skill and what you know that's going into play as well. It's just like Cascadian said, he got those packs and everything out of there was a new flavor, something that wasn't experienced. He hasn't seen that in any other commercial availability. That's worth it. I think that's certainly saying something like, hey, this is worth more than just more than $100 a 10 pack, 10 of Tennessee. But if I'm getting something that no one has, I've never had especially, yeah, I would get into like 20s. I would understand that.
And then sometimes it's these things that are really apparently like difficult to grow. And again, you can almost liken it to some of this sports equipment. I go back to the days when I used to windsurf, and you get these like not dagger, but skegs that you're paying a fortune for this carbon fiber, which, when you really are at the peak of your game, you can tell if there's a slight chip in it and things like that. I mean, you can pick up just this little bit of difference it brings, but for the average Joe, it makes bugger all difference. I mean, you really are you're not able to actually make that plant do what it wants, or that use the equipment, or get the performance out of it that it really can. It takes an extra level of skill to do that, and it might look cool to turn up with that latest piece of gear, but you're not going any faster, any better, or performing any outperforming anybody else. In fact, a lot of at times, if you don't know what you're doing with it, you're going to fuck up, because it has to be ridden at the edge, otherwise it doesn't perform.
You turned a $400 pack down and back to 100. Because of whatever you bred with it was like, or nothing. Yeah, it's not even worth the packaging that it's put in.
Yeah,
because I could get that out of a bag seed even better.
What was the question there from Phil Mitchell saying?
When I was a kid, it does remind me, like when I was a kid, we did trap shooting competitively, and you would have people show up with, the most expensive gear, the most expensive guns, all kinds of tricks and mods to their guns, stuff like that, just to get an edge. But a lot of times it was just someone who had put in more time at the range practicing with a cheap, 870, with a cheap, something that was inexpensive, but they really knew how to use it well. That would often win the day. It was funny just to watch people spend a lot of money on gear and then get beat by like a kid who just put in the time to practice.
And do we also feel, for instance, like is a pack of 10? Is that a fair number? I mean, it's one of those, we do always like to, if you ask anybody to come up with a number, it's usually 5, 10, 20s. It's things we can do with this easy. It's 5s and 10s and round numbers like that. It tends to be what people go for.
That's why centimeters and, the metric system is far superior to anything we use in the United States. Yeah, I said it. Come at me.
And when you hear of getting 7 males out of a pack of 10, 10 is is 20, not maybe, or 15, something that's 14, 15. 10 is great if they're all feminized, then you know what you're getting for a home grow, small quantity. But when again you're paying that much, if you've got a limited amount of space and you're only interested in the females, then you will maybe want a better odds of getting what you're after.
I'm going to start another fight. So do we know that even a seed is completely male or completely female? Assuming feminized, obviously you've created them that way. You've manipulated the ethylene process to ensure it. But on the other side of it, So just say our regular standard, phototropic, regular, what we call regular seeds, depending on the environment you pop them in, will actually push them to skew male or female. It's not necessarily predestined. The harsher environment, and you can notice this if you screw around, the harder environment you try to pop seeds in, the higher likelihood you're going to get males, because you need one of them to survive at least to carry on the generations. Whereas the better your environment, the more Goldilocks it becomes, the heavier and heavier your plants are going to skew female because of what they're detecting in their environment as they're popping. They're literally using epigenetic data that's coming into them from their environment as they're going through the popping process to help determine which genes to kick on and off. And some of them, it's going to be a stress response. If you raise it in a very hostile environment, you're going to skew more males.
You want to, I don't know, is that one that's been studied?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. In fact, it's funny enough, the Rev actually, I keep mentioning him. He just did an article on it not long ago. He had another article, people write him breeding questions all the time. And again, he goes back to citing that, and he's, pretty good about going into sources, depending on what it is. But, in this case, yeah, you're looking at, long history of breeding in different environments. And yeah, if you take the same genetic and depending on how hostile the environment is, you can potentially get it to skew. Now, of course, 10 seeds is 10 seeds. So that's not something you can actually use as a judgment. But the more you repeat the process over and over again, like you're always talking about, the higher the numbers you get into. Yes. So, apparently people who have done larger cash cropping, they'll see it. So, and apparently that was his evidence from when he was doing warehouse size grows in San Diego. I.e., the hotter their popping room, that they were trying to start with, the more males they would tend to skew. And I guess San Diego, pretty warm environment. Never been there.
Yep, I've never been there either, so I couldn't comment.
That's pretty warm. A little wet right now, but warmer than most places.
If I was to put out seeds, I don't think I'd do anything less than 25. I think that'd be the smallest pack you could expect from me is 25.
Yeah.
It's just not enough. 10's not enough to make a proper determination unless they're basically IBL'd or feminized. Like I was perfectly fine choosing from the 6 out of 10 seeds that I bought, where they all looked the same, and I was just picking through minute details in the finished flower. Like that was more than enough trouble for me on that particular line. But most lines, I always wish I had more seeds, or I'll buy 2 packs. I mean, I have to have the seed numbers. There's for me, there's a bare minimum of seeds that I need to open pollinate something and keep it around. So if I don't have that many seeds, I'm not liable to even pop the seeds. I'll give them away or get rid of them, or so 25 is the number that I've picked because that's what works for me. But that's also the number that I would give to somebody else, just because anything less isn't enough to me. So,
well, I mean, actually, interesting point really, too. The more worked it is, the less you need of them to do what you're looking to accomplish.
And it helps with ever so slightly. I mean, it's minimal, but ever so slightly goes towards helping reduce the bottlenecking effect, because you are actually putting more of them out there. You're giving everybody more of a selection to choose from each time. It's not just a limited little group of 10. I mean, it's 100%, 150% increase on the selection pool, which is quite significant actually. When you do that out over and over and over again, suddenly everybody's got a lot more to choose from.
Yeah, it changes the, once you start giving packs away with more seeds in them, it changes the dynamic of the whole population. if
Mm.
more people have more individuals that they feel that they want to include in their next generations, and people continue that work, then you've changed the dynamic of the generations to follow after the seeds you've released just by simply giving them more seeds.
Mm, mm.
You'll stave off that bottlenecking effect a little bit faster. Now, if you sell them 25 seeds, they pick one male and one female, then they didn't help nobody. But the idea would be that maybe they would find 3 or 5 females worth including in the next pollination round, or more
Yeah.
than one male.
And if it also came to looking for, they want best of breeds to be able to select that as part of a breeding project to continue with, they now expanded that selection pool to 25 all of a sudden and picked from that. And the best of breed that they may have missed from the little pack of 10 that they originally got, what may have been in that could have been outshone by the other ones as well. Yeah. Hmm.
Guys got me thinking about what's an appropriate pack. Like, it seems like what you guys are saying is more of an appropriate pack for breeding, like for breeders. What's an appropriate pack size for home scale? I
I'm
just need
thinking
what I
home
need.
scale.
That is
I
home
mean,
scale?
I'm
Okay.
personally thinking a pack of 20, 25 for home. A breeder should be picking up, hang on, I want,
Thousands,
half an
hundreds,
ounce of
more,
seeds or an
couple
ounce of seeds,
zeros.
a pound of
Mm.
seeds, doing it by weight, not doing it by number. At least, okay, commercial breeders and commercial seed buyers are also doing it by, can I have, 40 pounds of seeds, please? Not, I need 23 seeds.
But you were saying 25 is enough, like if at a home scale, you can't afford those extra zeros, but you still need something to at least back cross for yourself so that it makes it more worth the price of, $10 a seed, whatever the price. Okay, I
Mm.
understand.
I mean,
Yeah,
I've certainly had the mystery, like with the mystery grower, I know they were given packs of seeds that, were quite expensive at the end of the day and pop them and there's 7 males. And it's like, hey, I would be hacked off, and then I'm a little bit wary about popping anymore because is it going to be the same? But if it was a pack of 20 and I got 7 males and 13 females, I'd go, well, that's fine. I don't really mind about that. You just get unlucky in the first other row of 20, you just got, that piece. So it's just, again, upping your odds. More numbers, the better.
the way I've kind of looked at it is we've, for better or worse, built a culture around 10 seeds, where people are used to getting 10 seeds wet at a time. So my thinking is I want to give you more than one round of seed popping. I want you to be able to look at the line, make some decisions, and then maybe you say, oh shit, I shouldn't have threw that one away. I shouldn't have cut that one down. You still have a whole nother run that you can germinate and get into. And now you're a little bit more educated because you've seen the line already. Some people will buy a 10 pack and only pop 5 because they want to do that. But 5's not even enough to really even know what the hell's going on. So I'm thinking I'll give you 2 rounds of germination and a couple extras because shit happens. Like that's how I kind of got to 25 for giving to somebody else. For me to do an open pollination, I usually need 40 to 50 seeds because I do the same thing, but I'm looking for 16 to 25 I can keep in the open pollination for myself, which tends to cost me a little bit more and tends to keep me from getting certain packs because it becomes prohibitive. But that's my thinking is some I don't expect everybody to be as crazy as me and do what I do. Not that I'm even nuts when it comes to a commercial grow, but for home scale for myself, there's not a lot of people that try to open pollinate with 16 to 25 plants on social media that I've seen. I haven't seen everybody, so I can't really speak completely blanket statement, but I haven't ran into very many people that do it like that.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of packs I've had to pass up on because I knew I couldn't afford the 2 packs. And that's when I will sometimes buy one of those expensive packs and just look for a female to keep and smoke for a while. I don't breed with them. I don't do anything with it. I just kind of let it run its fame out in my garden and let it go. And it's
Yeah,
worth
just
it.
keep perpetuate it for a bit. Mm, mm.
Sometimes you find a killer cut that you can trade for another cut, or you can give to your friends, or and that's fun too, to see something you selected grown in somebody else's garden, whether you bred it or not. Just, here's my cutting, dude, let's see what you can do, and then they go do their best with it, and it might be better than yours, and you're like, well, damn, good job. Like, you know, we're not all the greatest growers, so there's always somebody else out there better than us that makes that cut look better than we ever did, or it looks different. It's not necessarily better, but because they have a different environment, it turned out different or expressed a
Mm,
different
mm.
flavor. So that's always fun too. But that's been 2 occasions, maybe 3 occasions for me that I've bought something crazy expensive and shared with people. So it's a pretty limited experience in itself. There's some, that's why this is such a finicky topic, is because there's so many angles to the culture around this. There's so many reasons to do one thing or not do that same thing. Like there's,
Yeah, yeah. It is a yeah. I mean, it's in that trap that you just go round and round. You're it's a way of doing it a little bit different, you know. And how do you break the cycle? How do you say, hang on? I just like the idea of, I think, you know, most breeders that automatically they're putting extra seeds in quite often. You get a few extras from most of these places. So why not just number to something reasonable?
I think it might mature as the market progresses now that things are starting to change. It might become harder and harder to charge those high dollar prices as both the consumer becomes more knowledgeable, hopefully, but also as the breeder is allowed to produce more with less risk, less overhead, less failure, less seizure, less we might see the price start to come down. Might.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And again, I think this is the whole point. It's about, I mean, this is the whole idea about this thing, you know, this discussion that is where we become more educated as consumers, because there's no point in driving the price down so far as it's no longer profitable, and therefore people stop doing it, and therefore we lose this resource in this product. But at the same point, at the same time, we want those who put in the effort in to be reasonably. We don't want to be rinsed either. You know, it is finding that balance, and yes, hopefully the market will, when it becomes properly open, regulated market that everybody can participate in. Yeah, it will balance out. There will be a correction, and there will be, yeah, like anything, I guess, reputation and results are what speak loudest.
Well, just to go on to that same sentiment of educating, look at what we're doing with, like, hey, you can breed. If you have genetics, you can breed. Start off with something, you know, just anything so that you can get the hang of it. I like Pete's what he learned about in genetics in his class with the fruit flies. You can go that route. You can even go lettuce seeds. Go for something like radishes that has a quick turnaround, so you can start observing everything and then move on. Or you can start with cannabis just from the beginning. You can, there's no problem with that. If you got a male and a female, start messing around, see what the effects are, and start to get to know everything. And I think with that education in itself, we'll have more responsible breeders. And with more responsible breeders coming about, then we'll see more availability. I really think, like, how, I mean, what was it, like 50 years ago, 70s? So how much of that bud was seeded. So everyone had the chance to get a little something. And then as things got progressively more and more into the market of Sensimilla, it started to be like, oh, well, now there's a scarcity, almost like, where do I get this? Instead of like people just picking it out of their bud, like, oh, I just want to smoke. I don't want all this stuff. Not knowing like, hey, you can smoke a lot more if you just use what you just picked out. I think there's that as well. Like all people see in they would buy some Jungle Boys pack and no seeds in that. You know, maybe if it came with some seeds, it would be a different story. The market would look a lot different. Again, supply and demand is just another thing that goes into this as well. There's so many variables. Yeah, I thought that was another thing that I'd never really considered before. Just like, oh wait, we did have a bunch of seeds and like available to everyone. But then again, how easy was it to get that bud? And then was that bud good? Would you find a winner out of that? A lot of the stuff that we have though today is from that. And even to go on even further, there are bag seeds that just got pollinated because it was a herm. That those there's other genetics that wouldn't exist without that. Oh, I just went away for a week and then came back and everything was seeded. So this is how we got name your hype. So does that qualify as the $200, $300 pack? Because it's the stuff that's flying off the shelves. You know, GMO,
Yeah, you
whatever
see,
the
that's
fuck.
just it. I mean, and that's just it. It's because it's that FOMO, fear of missing out. It's the hot thing. Everybody wants it. Cool. Okay, cool. I mean, it's pump and dump. You know, it's what happens on the stock market as well. We'll just pump a whole lot of, and that's it. Everybody's bought it and it's gone,
Yeah,
sort of thing.
that's what I've tried to
Um,
stay away from. Like I'm fine with whatever comes out of my tent because I know it was grown responsibly and I use it for medicinal purposes. So that's my main goal. And whenever someone says, oh, did you try this? Did you try the gelato? Did you try the GMO? Did you try, you know, whatever, wedding cake? Did you do any of this? Most of the time I tell people, no, like I live in Hype County and I have availability to everything. And I just choose not to. I'm like, first off, just don't have the income for that. I'm not going to go and drive up to LA, even though it's within reason, spend that money, go through the traffic, go through the headache just to wait in a line, you know, and, you know, just to go up to some elevator and the Jungle Boys and get whatever. You know, I'm not saying it's bad. That's not worth it to me. When I could just as reasonably get, now I'm at the point where I'm just given seeds. And some are like in the $200 range and others are like, oh, my friend that was just breeding and messing around, but they're from really good genetics. What do you just say? It is what it is. You get what you get, but it's here. So now it's the point where it's like, why am I bothering buying some stuff unless it's really on like I've been wanting that for a while. It's something like a blue diesel that I first really fell in love with or something like that. I don't feel that I need to be paying the prices anymore, like going up to that. But then again, I haven't tried everything.
That's
I
what
mean,
I
was
think we
gonna-
should. Yeah, sorry, go.
Oh, that's what I was going to point out too. The best seeds I've ever grown, I didn't pay for. There's kind of this progression in that when you first start buying seeds, you buy the economical, feasible ones. As you start to have more seeds grow more, you might play around in some higher price seeds, just depending on your living situation. But eventually you get to know enough people if you're not too shy. You rub a couple elbows and next thing you know, you're trading seeds or you're getting away from buying them. And the best stuff I've ever grown, I didn't pay for. They were gifted. They were, try this out. And that's the best, you know, I've bought $300 packs, but I've also grown stuff that would blow those $300 packs out of the water just because they were something different. Again, something I had never seen before, just like the $300 pack. But it's like, what is this? I've never seen this profile before. And at a certain point, for most people, I don't think you can convince them to continue buying packs. It becomes a networking, have some friends kind of thing. And then that becomes, then you actually know the person behind the name or the brand or whatever. And it becomes a little more special to you because you have the relationship to them and you know who they are. And that means more to you than really any price on the shelf. So
Yeah, it should be. You mentioned there about Lefty. Yeah, unfortunately, he's not available. He would be great because he's buying packs all over the show. Him and Dave, Penny
He's got a
Days.
problem. He's got a problem.
Well, this is interesting. I mean, we were having this conversation earlier, and Dave's not here. I don't want to put words in his mouth, but he was like, "Oh Christ, it feels like you guys are like sort of semi-attacking," just because we're saying, like who pays for $300 packs of seeds and stuff like that? Just joking around, but. That's where he came in it with, but from a collector's perspective, it's very different.
Yeah.
And that there is this whole separate way of looking at it when you're not even popping these seeds. You're almost like the preservation guys. You're going, all right, we'll buy these because these will disappear. They're one hit wonder kind of thing. And
These genetics
Yeah.
won't exist again. No
yeah,
matter
and,
what
and
you
they'll hold
do.
on to them for ages, and then they'll appear. But that's a whole different. They're not buying to grow them necessarily. It almost
See-
becomes a case of like expensive wine being traded
stock.
hands, but it will never be drunk. It will never be popped. These seeds are what they are. You
Well,
don't know
people
the
trade wine
viability of
bottles like
them or
that.
at some point. In
Yeah.
fact, nobody would dare pop a pack at a certain point because if they weren't viable, it means every other pack like that would probably devalue instantly because everybody's going to go, yeah, they're no longer viable.
Well, funny enough, we do the exact same thing in beer in that there's so many beers people want to track down and try, they'll pay through the nose for. Best Veterans 12 is supposedly the rarest beer in the world that only had a release in the US once. I managed to bring some back from Belgium. Right now, I have in my cellar some 2009 and 2010 Dark Lord from Three Floyds. And that's not something I drink. It's literally just a trading commodity. I would literally trade it or sell it to anyone who wants it, but I don't drink it. Beer for me for a long time was exactly that. It was chasing down these things and, oh, I want to try this because I've never had it. And, but after about 15, 20 years of that, you start making the stuff. I became a brewing judge. Like, you quickly learn that any of these things are still just water, yeast, hops, and malt. And you can knock them off if you feel like it. Just make it at home.
yeah, on the crazy side of things, I've led auctions, been involved in auctions where seed packs have gone for $5,000. Like, I'd never do that. I'm just the guy running the numbers, not getting anything from it, just donating my time. And some of the numbers I see are crazy. But some, to some people, $5,000 is the equivalent of $100. So, or some people, these days it's a business decision. They're running a commercial grow. They need something that nobody else has. $5,000's an investment. They're going to make their money back. It's a wild game. It's really crazy.
Yeah. I mean, if you're paying to have access to be like the only one, you're buying it and you're the only one who's going to have it from that point onwards, then yeah, I can see money getting quite silly all of a sudden because at that point you're buying the rights to those seeds. They become yours. That genetics is essentially becoming yours all of a sudden, and you're buying all of that time and effort in one hit and going, thanks, I'll take the lot. Yeah, because if you were paying that for your commercial side, you want to make damn sure they're not selling it to the guy down the road all of a sudden for half the price because they just made a shit ton off you. They don't need to do it again. Um, hmm, hmm, hmm. Well, on that note, that draws us up to the end of the hour, which is how we like to keep these. So we will be opening it up for the after show hangout. If anybody does want to jump in and join us, you're more than welcome to. But while we wrap up, Shreeby, you've been frightfully quiet there. Hope you're
Hey,
keeping well,
good.
buddy. And where can everybody find you, dude?
Instagram.
Hey, give us. Yep.
You can find me on Instagram, Should We Do, YouTube Grow for Show on Tuesdays, Neighborhood Grows on Mondays, and Operation Grow on Saturdays, and Neighborhood Grows in Discord.
Excellent, but excellent. How is your CrossNet coming on for? If you popped any F1s, got any of those going quickly? Just a quick little update.
So I just got the hydroponic system set back up, and I'm just doing reset on the other tent. I was kind of delayed because I went to Manitoba for work, so
Yeah. No, you mentioned.
it's
We'll be
been all
looking
catch
forward
up.
to seeing how those get going because the
Oh, yeah.
Mystery Growers F1s are going along quite well, and there'll be an update on those.
Nice.
Oh yeah, next week there may not be a live show, or there may not be a show at all. It'll either be pre-recorded, won't be on. I've got to go to. Body, shucks.
Hey, just be
In a
safe, buddy.
field, damn it. Oh yeah, it's a family event. So
Almost
after where
dangerous.
can everybody find you, bud?
Thanks for having me, Pete. The fun discussion as always. I'm Raptor Grow. You can find me at Instagram, Raptor Grow, all one word, all lowercase. You can also find me here, Operation Grow, same time, same place. And the Neighborhood Grow Show, Mondays, 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 7 Eastern, 12 a.m. UK. See you all next week, or actually Monday, if you catch me.
And Cascadian, good to have you on again. And where can everybody find you, buddy?
Yeah, thanks for having me, man. Raptor, I've tried like hell to catch that show on Mondays, and I just can't seem to. But I'm gonna try again this Monday.
It's all
hopefully.
good. It's one of those times, but hey, it's
Yeah.
our
Always
time
welcome,
and we
buddy.
don't step on anyone's toes.
Yeah.
We don't like need to have a certain time for a certain day to do something. It's like, no, because it's just good to have the information out. And we also respect the people in the community that are putting info out too. So it's cool to work within those constraints because we're just working with everyone instead of trying to be like, oh, well, I need,
Yeah.
4 to 3 days to take over everything to make it all about me. It's like, no,
Right.
it's
Yeah.
about the process. Yeah, no
You
worries,
can catch
man.
me at Cascading Grown on Instagram. I'm gonna try to be in the neighborhood chat. You can catch me here on Saturdays. Yeah, man. If you're looking for me, find me on Instagram.
Excellent, man. Excellent. And GMF, where can we find you, buddy?
Usually you can find me in the kitchen or in the garden fermenting up something or cooking something or, hanging out with these reprobates here, the usual cast of characters on the over in the neighborhood or at Operation Grow. But, if I can be helpful to anyone, hit me up on IG, Genetic Memory Farms. I like to be helpful. If you got any questions, y'all hit me up. Have a good one. And
Excellent.
thank you, Pete, for making this platform for all of us to make our brains a little bumpier once a week. It's very kind of you.
No worries. I was about to put a whole, maybe that'll work. Slap a whole bunch of links up in chat there that may or may not work. Who knows? But yeah, you can catch me at Operation Grow 2019 on Instagram, as well as at Peel Grow Systems on Instagram. I don't think that link's going to work. It's going to be horrendous. That falls up badly. But anyway, yeah, feel free to jump into the after show. Join us for a chat if you want to. Be great. Yeah, on that note, see you